This is a support video for Sports Facilities Assignment 2, specifically looking at Section 1, First Submission. This section needs to be between 500 to 600 words maximum. As you can see, I do need you to write a brief introduction, maximum of 100 words, on the case study organisation, so just a brief background to the LC as a sports facility in general, the fact that we're focusing on the sports hall as part of the LC, snapshot of the history, the company. So the LC is the name of the organisation or building, but it's not the name of the actual organisation, which is at Bay Leisure Limited. You can research both the LC website and the link website for Bay Leisure Limited. Just to remind you again, this company is a company limited by guarantee, so a trust. So some of the information you've used previously, some of the readings that you've used for your review logs, Trend to Trust exam, for example, can offer some support and referencing even within this first 100 words. So again, that first element, brief introduction, bit of a background to the company and the building case study. Towards the end of that little introduction, I need you just to outline what the purpose of the assignment will be, which is a fundamental review of using the Quest framework of the LC Sports Hall. The main element of this first submission is to review the LC vision statement objectives, and this can be found on Moodle. This 400 to 500 words should not just be a copy and paste of the mission, vision and value statements and objectives, but a critique of the document that can be found on Moodle. The way we aim to critique this document is to use the Quest frameworks and best practice that we've introduced to in class, and key management theory. In terms of this section, the focus will be on strategies and mission, vision, values. You can get some of this information from sports management texts, which specifically focus on the industry. You can also consider business texts focusing on strategic management, and there are several journals, for example European Association of Sports Management or strategic management, specific journals in business. Please access the databases via the library, both for the LET section and for the business section, and look at Sports Discus database or EBSCO Business Planner. The aim here is to ensure that we take the Bay Leisure's mission, vision and value statement and assess its whether it's fit for purpose, whether it actually meets the industry standards for best practice as laid down by the Quest framework. What I'm not looking for in this section is a definition of Quest and an overview of the framework. That's not the purpose of the assignment. The assignment is to use and utilise this framework in order that we can assess the mission, vision and value statements of Bay Leisure in context of the LC. As you can see here, I have picked out the main business planning document for Quest, Purpose 1. This can be found on Moodle. This document specifically is laid out in such a way that if you were a Quest assessor going in externally, or whether you're an internal assessor, so a manager, general manager, strategic manager, this gives us some clear questions to ask about the business planning processes. Now, we're assessing the mission, vision and value statement. So as an example, key questions that we should be asking ourselves as assessors are: can we identify if the manager has clearly identified the purpose of the organisation and or company? So in this instance, what I'm looking for is for you to identify that we can see a clear purpose, there are specific and measurable outcomes, but I just don't want you to identify that they're there. I'd also like you to identify what the focus is. Is that relevant? Are we able to identify a clear focus for this sport and leisure facility, i.e. are they sports development principles considered? Are they looking at performance sport? Is it a general focus on health and well-being? Are they trying to do all of it, and is that a feasible strategy moving forward? There are some questions that we can't answer based on this document. So for example, we won't know if external factors have influenced the development of the business plan, whether staff and stakeholders have been involved, because we have no access to the senior management team as part of this review. So this is purely producing a review on the document available to us utilising industry best practice. So again, Quest is saying that across the country, the best practice from all industry providers in sport and leisure would see organisations, effective organisations, clearly having a mission statement, that they would clearly undertake research, that there would be specific, measurable corporate objectives. These objectives are likely to have measurable outputs and target dates and planned reviews. Now, you may assess that in the mission, vision and value statement that you have available to you, that there are clear objectives, but it isn't clear how they're measured and how success will be measured. Quest is providing some guidance for you to think about. So for example, an effective mission statement should be clear, concise and able to identify what the centre organisation is trying to achieve. I'm happy that you utilise this guidance and reference it as from Quest, but if you want to push up into the 2-1 first class honours categories, you'll also consider key business management or sports management texts or journals to also support these concepts. So essentially I'm asking you to look at the mission statement set out by Bay Leisure. Do they have one? Is it clear, concise, and can we identify what the key purpose of the organisation is? We can't assess whether external factors in terms of their research, but we can make assumptions based on the language that they use in their mission, vision, value and objectives. So can we link it back to local and national strategies such as Climbing Higher? Is there a local authority cultural strategy, a sport and physical activity strategy? You could access this via City and County of Swansea website. Do the language in national governing bodies and local national strategies appear in the Bay Leisure mission, vision and value statements? Do they try and do it all, or are they focused on one or two key areas? We could also consider whether the objectives set out take into account other social objectives or commercial objectives. And again, consider some of the research and review logs you've already accessed, such as a trend to trust, and think about and audit commission from previously sports facilities reviews, and consider whether trusts with a pure commercial focus or whether they have social focus, and judge Bay Leisure based on this vision, mission and value statement and whether they meet those standards, or they specifically focusing on an area within that spectrum, social versus commercial. So there will be several sections of this first Quest 2012 purpose document for business planning. Some of it we won't be able to answer, so such as these key questions: how are staff and customers partners informed and updated about the business objectives? We can't make that assessment based on purely a document, so I'm quite happy that you read through there, see if there's anything you can pick out, but I'm happy that you don't focus on that particular question. You can, however, use, even though there's no evidence, you could use examples of best practice of how to measure as suggested improvements. So within the 400 to 500 words, I'm looking for a critique of the mission, vision, value statements using this guidance. But towards the end of this little section, I'd like you to consider some conclusions and recommendations for Bay Leisure to consider, and that will happen in every key section. So mini conclusion in the last 50 to 100 words. Okay. There are other documents available to you on Moodle. So if you have identified that the key focus is a broad health and well-being objective, then there will be documents included in Moodle that you can also access in the same format as this, such as G+5 contribution to health and well-being, where there'll be some specific questions and guidance there to look at in terms of how Bay Leisure have written and identified their contribution to health and well-being, and what Quest would argue is best practice across the industry. There are also documents for sports development, working with national governing bodies and high performance sport. I will be assessing your judgment on which of those documents will be most relevant for Bay Leisure based upon your analysis of the mission, vision and value statements. So again, first section will need a basic introduction about the assignment and case study and organisation, no more than 100 words. Please use the Trend to Trust as a good academic journal to support using effective references about trusts, etc. The main section in terms of review for this submission is about the strategy in terms of mission, vision, values. The key Quest document to help you think about how you would conduct the analysis is the Quest Purpose 1 business planning document. You won't be able to use all the sections, but there will be key questions, key areas to consider. Use the guidance, use the examples of best practice. You can reference this document, but if you want to push into the 2-1+ range, you will also consider other key texts and journals. Everything that you've already read is available to you, and other key texts, just to judge whether we feel that it is an effective mission, vision, value statement, and to identify what the key purpose and priorities of the company are in terms of sports provision. This will be important as we drill down into the programming and operational side of things, because what we'll be assessing later on is whether the current programs and the current operations actually meet the overall purpose of the organisation. It'll also frame our suggestions for programming later on in the assignment.